Being a doula is about holding space, and the space that seems so vital to hold right now is the generative tension created by responding to the immediate and urgent needs and fears of community while naming and framing COVID-19 crisis in historical context. That means understanding this pandemic as a stress test that our government, our gaping and threadbare social safety nets, and our never-ending reducing workplace safety standards will fail in slow motion while never forgetting that failure will take a human toll that is uneven, unfair, and unjust. Disaster is always the canvas for transition, and a COVID-19 doula is poised to gently turn attention towards what could be different in the world we remake in its wake. Maybe it's the COVID doula's job to gather our collective anger and turn to power and ask, explain to me like I'm a child, why can we bail out the banks but not offer everyone healthcare for free? Why is staying at home from work a privilege for the wealthy? Explain to us, in your words, why some lives are worth more than others in this system. It struck me that the mutual aid campaigns responding quickly to this crisis mobilized so quickly: grocery money, ad hoc unemployment benefits, healthcare funds for sex workers, retail workers, restaurant workers, artists, theater workers, nail salon workers, musicians, authors, because our communities have had to hold each other tightly and provide for contingency in the face of state neglect for a long time. We have insurgent and hard-won knowledge about how to make a legume last for a long time, how to take care, nourish, and protect your body while your work is touching others. The work of the COVID doula is to share this information, to connect these communities, and think about who falls through first when society cracks under outsized pressure. I guess, phrased another way, the work of the COVID-19 doula is to make space for softness so that we can look at this crisis unflinchingly and not turn away from what is most difficult about it. It is about making space to talk about being afraid and sharing your grandmother's recipe for dal and crying on the telephone. I'm not sure if you have the next slide, but it can just be about crying on the telephone. I can really honestly leave it there. Oh, with those you love. The work is asking your kin and kindred to be accountable to those who are more vulnerable than they are, even when it feels bad, and asking how you can make it easier. The work is also remembering that when the going got tough, some people fled for their beach homes, but first they took yoga classes that others cleaned up after and taught. They ate dinners others served them, and they drank craft cocktails others poured them. Some people will be allowed to stay safe, and others are being asked to expose themselves so that we can keep the system going. It's not fair, it's not right, and we cannot forget it. And I guess, I have struggled a little bit with how righteous I sound at times, because I think everyone, when I reread it, I was just thinking about how we are all trying our best, and there is a lot of judgment and anger, and I think I have been trying to navigate how you hold the people you love accountable, and have difficult conversations about when they're going out too much, when you know that some people are really isolated and that's hard, or my living grandparents in India are still having a really hard time not taking walks, and they're in their 80s, and I'm scared for them, and I don't know what's true and what's not. And I think often we channel our fear as anger, but at the same time, I had been working at a yoga studio right before this happened, and I noticed how often people were saying things like, oh, this is my safe haven, like no one would get sick here, or, this is the real oasis in the storm, and they stayed open way too late. And I couldn't help but think it's because all of these bodies are thin and white and healthy that they think that they're untouchable and that their actions don't have reverberating consequences for everyone around them. And it kind of like lit me up. I felt really mad sitting in my apartment as things were falling apart, thinking that some people are out there, teaching yoga classes from the Hamptons, and other people are getting their mail for them. It was kind of this foundational thing. And all I've been able to come up with in the kind of weeks since is there has to be a space that we can create together of kind of softening, of turning towards the fact that that's a fundamental inequality, that this is not new. I'm a historian in my non-angry letter writing life. And I think that this threadbare social safety net has just been threadbare for a really long time. I write about the first decades of the AIDS epidemic, and I'm working on a chapter right now about homelessness. And there's a lot of testimony where people are saying that, you know, the way we fail people is actually a feature in the system, not a bug. It's a feature meant to make sure that some people have no choices so that we can coerce them into doing what we want them to, or working for very little money, or not existing. And I was thinking about my grandmother and just how my whole life I have been not a hoarder of food, but I can't, you know, I've always been kind of epigenetically predisposed to not being able to finish things in my pantry, or reusing tea bags, and just being, she raised me in large part when I was very young and living in India. And kind of the experience of partition and how traumatic it was. For those of you who don't know, it's the largest migration of people in the world known to man to date. I think it was several million people moved from the India side to the Pakistan side, and the Pakistan side to the India side. It was a very violent migration, particularly for women. Many people died, and it was also a time of great hunger. And my grandmother never talked about it, and I think not talking about it with her remains one of my bigger regrets, but I feel it all the time in how we take care of each other. And I think one of the few things I've come upon is we have to share our different insurgent knowledges. If you know about how to make a cheap lentil, you have each one teach one. You know, if you know about, I just learned on a call with Ted last week about roots. We were talking about roots that go a really long way. And yeah, if you know how to organize a rent strike, each one teach one. And that's what these kind of zine projects are about. And I think we derive so much inspiration from those that came before us. I know, looking at some of the metanoia flyers and things like that, it's remarkable the urge to organize in the face of something that is falling apart. So that's what I've been focusing on. Perhaps it's, you know, overly optimistic or something, but I'll leave it there.